Hello and welcome to Laurice's Kitchen. Just in time for Halloween, we've got pumpkin stew and pumpkin parfaits. For our Halloween dinner, we're putting our pumpkin parfaits together first. The pumpkin pudding portion has to cool completely in the refrigerator, and that's going to take a couple of hours. For that, we're going to need 2 cups of packed pumpkin, this is just Libby's, along with 2 cups of milk, 1 cup of granulated sugar, 1/4 cup of cornstarch, 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, a 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt, and 1 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. Now if you don't have pumpkin pie spice, you can just use a 1/2 teaspoon of ginger and a 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. We're cooking all of this on the stovetop in this 2.5 quart pan. We're going to start by whisking together the milk and the pumpkin and then the sugar, and then adding the rest of the dry ingredients. We're just going to take this over to the stovetop and heat it over medium heat until it's thickened and bubbly. I'm just going to whisk this every couple of minutes while it's cooking. Okay, this is thickened and bubbly, so it's ready to come off the heat. We're going to transfer it to a glass bowl and put plastic wrap directly onto the surface. Alright, like any pudding, this will develop a skin if we don't put this directly on the surface. I'm going to let this cool down for about 20 minutes to come to room temperature, and then it's going in the refrigerator. We can finally get started on this pumpkin stew. I've got 2 pie pumpkins, and I've cut off the tops by just basically cutting down 1/3 of the way. Then I've scooped out the insides. Now you're going to need to use a very large knife and a little bit of elbow grease, so be sure to keep your fingers out or your friends will be referring to you as stubs or bleedy. I've also got them on a baking sheet that's lined with non-stick aluminum foil, and I have these aluminum cups. When these pumpkins bake, they're going to become soft, and if we don't put them on the cups, they can collapse. I'm just going to season the inside of each of these pumpkins with just a little bit of salt and fresh cracked black pepper. I have my oven preheated to 350 degrees, and I do have the convection oven on. We're going to roast these with their lids on for an hour at 350 degrees. While these pumpkins bake, we can get started on our stew. Now this is a pork tenderloin stew, so it's not going to have to cook for very long. For that, I've got 2 pork tenderloin muscles that I've cleaned by removing all the excess outer membrane along with the silver skin and the big tendon that runs in between the 2 muscles. This is 4 Yukon Gold potatoes that I've peeled and cubed along with about 8 medium carrots that I've peeled and sliced. I have 1 large onion that I've thinly sliced, and this strange puck is actually 4 ounces of roux. That's 4 tablespoons of butter melted with 4 tablespoons of flour mixed in. You need to make this ahead and allow it to cool. Mine's actually frozen. I've also got 6 cups of chicken stock, and we're also going to need salt and pepper to taste. I'm cooking this in my Dutch oven. I've got this on over about medium-high heat, and I'm going to let it heat up. After that, I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of oil, and then we're browning this pork tenderloin first. Okay, we don't want to overcook this pork too much because we want it to stay tender. We can add our onions now. And we're going to sweat these down and let them soften. Okay, these are nicely softened. That's been about 3 or 4 minutes. Next, we're going to add these potatoes and carrots. Now you'll notice that I did grain them. And we just want to give these a little bit of flavor before we add in the broth. Okay, next in goes the chicken stock. And I'm going to wait for this to come up to a simmer before I add in the roux. Okay, this is barely just starting to simmer, so I'm going to go ahead and put this roux in here. And I'm going to stir it and mix it until it's pretty much dissolved. Once the last of this roux is completely dissolved in here, I'm going to turn the temperature down to medium-low, just barely simmering, and then cover it and allow it to cook until the pumpkins are done. Okay, don't just lift these off, you'll pull the stems right off. I'll be plating the lids with the pumpkins, but most people probably won't eat it. Now I've got a mixture of grated fontina and gruyere that I'm going to top each one of these pumpkins with. I'm going to be putting these back in the oven on broil, on low, for about 5 minutes, just enough to allow the cheese to melt and brown. Now I've adjusted my rack up 1 level. We don't want it up too high because we don't want the cheese to burn. If the spring on your door is very tight, like mine is, you need to put something in there to keep it open. On broil, the oven has to maintain a certain temperature, and with the door closed, it's just going to get too hot and shut off. So I have a silicone spoon rest that I use for mine. It's time to give this pumpkin stew a taste. That is so good. It's time to finish up those parfaits. For those, we're going to need about 1.5 cups of crushed gingersnap cookies. Now I put about 20 cookies in a gallon Ziploc bag and then just crush them with a rolling pin. We're also going to need 1.5 cups of whipped cream, about 2 tablespoons of powdered sugar, and about a teaspoon of clear vanilla. We're going to beat this until it's medium peaks. To get this pumpkin pudding cleanly into these parfait glasses, I'm going to be using a disposable piping bag. Now I just have that inside this drinking glass so that we can fill it easier. See, we make the mess on the piping bag and not in the glass. For each parfait, we're going to start with a rounded tablespoon of the crushed ginger snaps. Then we're going to top that with the pumpkin pudding. And top that with whipped cream. And we're going to layer this all over again. Finally, we get to taste these parfaits.